Hello there, it's Andy Parks from the Washington Times, and I'll be checking in with Stephen Dinan, Washington Times Assistant Managing Editor, right after this. You know, as a listener to my podcast, you qualify to receive a 50% discount on an annual digital subscription to the Washington Times. That's right, simply go to washingtontimes.com/Andy. That's washingtontimes.com/ANDY. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let's bring them on. Washington Times Assistant Managing Editor, Stephen Dinan. Hello, Stephen.
Hello, Andy.
It depends on how they're coming, the Attorney General says. Some illegals can come. Wait a minute, this is the top cop in the land. Illegal cop.
Yeah, this is an issue that the Biden administration is really struggling with. The question is, okay, there are caravans of people and obviously just this overall surge of people coming. What is the Biden administration's message to them? When Kamala Harris was in Guatemala earlier this year, her message to them was, "Don't come." And she drew a lot of flack from the immigrant rights activists for that. Merrick Garland's message was, well, it depends, which is at a time when we're facing the record-setting number of Border Patrol arrests in a year, the record-setting number of illegal immigrant juveniles traveling unaccompanied in a year, probably the record for deaths, where we'll get those numbers here soon, but probably the record for border deaths. Records are being shattered, and the administration can't agree on, hey, please don't come. So it's fascinating. In particular, the problem with Garland's answer right now, saying, well, it depends on if they're trying to seek asylum or not, is that right now the administration is using Title 42 powers to expel many of those who are coming, regardless of whether they are seeking asylum or not. So right now, it actually doesn't matter what they are coming for. They are not to enter under the pandemic order. If you enter the country, you are supposed to be immediately expelled back to Mexico. That doesn't always happen. With unaccompanied children, it doesn't happen. And Mexico is actually refusing to take back a lot of the people, which is why they're not all being expelled back. But the Biden administration policy is it doesn't matter why you're coming right now, and the Attorney General just got that wrong. It's really stunning. The Attorney General's appearances over the last 2 weeks not been particularly strong, and I was surprised to come to that conclusion.
Yeah. Immigrants' rights activists say the U.S. is spreading COVID by pushing these people back into Mexico.
It really is, exactly right. For months, we've been reporting and people have been warning about the potential spread of COVID from new arrivals coming across the border with COVID. The way that the Border Patrol handles, transports them in these communal settings and then releases them into communities. The immigrant rights activists say, you're not even testing them for COVID when they cross over. You're sticking them on buses, crowded buses, and busing them back to the border. There are COVID positive migrants in there. We know that. The Homeland Security Secretary a month ago said it's probably a 1 in 5, 20% positive rate. That means that they're on a bus with a whole bunch of people who didn't start off as positive, but every single one of them got an exposure. Whether they contracted or not remains to be seen, but every single one of them is getting exposed if you're on a crowded bus with a COVID positive migrant. And so the immigrant rights groups are furious at the fact that the U.S. has these people in custody for a little bit of time while they're processing and expelling them. The immigrant rights people want to see the U.S. keep them here and deal with them. The conservatives say, no, they shouldn't be coming in the first place. If we actually enforced our border, they wouldn't come in the first place, and we wouldn't have a COVID issue on either side of the border thanks to the illegal immigrants. The one thing that is sort of clear from that is that the Biden administration, no matter who you ask, the Biden administration is doing it wrong.
Yeah, okay. Another one of your stories, feds uncover expansive use of illegal immigrants in South Carolina construction. How many illegals do we know?
We don't. This is from court case files. The administration has focused far more heavily on the tax fraud aspect of this than the hiring and employment of illegal immigrants. So the documents talk about, we actually know how much the company executives are supposed to pay back in restitution to the IRS. We're talking one of the companies, the two people that have filed guilty pleas, admitting to their behavior, each of them is responsible for more than $400,000 in back tax payments that they should have been paying on payroll on these illegal immigrant employees. So the IRS, we know that the government is very interested in getting its money off of the illegal immigrants who are working, but we know nothing about what's actually happening with the illegal immigrants themselves, which may go along with our previous discussion about the way that the Biden administration is treating that issue of illegal immigration. They seem far more interested in making sure that Uncle Sam gets the money that the illegal immigrants should have been paying into the Treasury than worrying about the illegal immigrant workers themselves. Sort of add to that, the Justice Department, in announcing the guilty pleas for a dozen executives across 7 different companies in South Carolina, the Justice Department made the point that the companies themselves were getting an unfair business advantage versus other construction companies by using this labor, but they made no mention of the fact that the illegal immigrant workers themselves were getting an unfair advantage over workers, over American citizens and legal immigrant workers who might also have wanted those jobs.
I got you. All right, before I let you run, what are you working on?
I'm actually working on a story on the Afghan evacuees, and we've learned some new information just this week about how many more U.S. citizens were left behind, but we're approaching the 2-month mark since the end of the operations, and it's stunning how little we still know about who was left behind, and more importantly, who made it out and what sort of vetting was done on them. There was we came across testimony in Congress this week. Senior Defense Department official said that interviews on the Afghans who were evacuated, when they were being screened, they were only interviewed basically if something flagged in a government database, which means that if there was a bad actor who managed to stay off the radar of the FBI while in Afghanistan, then they were never interviewed. That basically we ran the checks, and if they cleared those, if nothing bad came back from the computers, then they were brought to the U.S. It's way less vetting than the U.S. would normally do for anybody else in that situation, a refugee or the special immigrant visa holders that we were supposed to be bringing out of Afghanistan. So we're beginning to learn a little bit more about the process that was used to bring people here, but there's so much we don't know, and it's 2 months in, and it's really surprising how little answers we as the public are getting, and even members of Congress are getting about those people.
Look forward to the story. As always, thank you, Stephen. We'll do it again next week.
My pleasure, Andy.
Washington Times Assistant Managing Editor, Stephen Dinan. Thanks for joining me today, and remember to receive a 50% discount on an annual digital subscription to the Washington Times. Go to washingtontimes.com/Andy. You'll get 24/7 digital access to the Washington Times at 50% off. Again, go to washingtontimes.com/ANDY. I'm Andy Parks. Have a great day.